Today's Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. I still cannot track the day and date of this month. I just live day by day and I don't track which day it is. Sorry about that. But today I got off work early so that I could go to my rice field to cut the weed from around the tree saplings that I planted this spring. There was many shrubs circling the saplings, and some of the vines wrapped around the saplings. So I cut down all the vines and shrubs and weeds like 50 centimeters around the saplings. So it was a hard work. It was very hot and humid, and it was 4:30. So like into 40 minutes, I was panting up. I couldn't breathe well. I felt like I would pass out and die on the field. So I seek some shelter. And then I washed my head, hand, and hair, or head and face with stream water. So when I was in Japan last week as a tourist, no problem. I could walk for 8 hours and so on each day. But back in Korea, it's quite humid. I think much more humid than in Japan. So keep that in mind when you travel from other countries into Korea. Speaking of Japan, there are very many knife stores in Kappabashi, Tokyo, and I got suddenly interested in the Japanese knives. So today, let's check out how Japanese knives are classified and what types of kitchen knives would fit your style, fit your needs. And this one is from Santoku.com and the blogs. I think the English is perfect, so I guess the author is from either UK or the US. So let's find that out. By the way, I am trying to read this article to practice English. I promised to myself that I would read an English article each day. The article could be of article's length could be of like a 20 to 30 minute read. Sometimes I read more than 1 hour. To read a lengthy article, but sometimes it's only 8 minutes, 5 minutes. Then I choose another articles of the same subject so that I could have more than 20 minutes in aggregate in total. So, but this article seems to be long. I've never read this article before. So I expect I would be around 30 minutes to finish this article from the top to the bottom. So here we go. Want to win a Japanese knife? Yes, but for the time being, I will just exit. This one is from santokuknives.co.uk. See, it's UK. So obviously the author is the British person, and the subject is types of Japanese knives used by the best Japanese chefs. A lot of knives. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 17 knives. There's no denying that Japanese knives are amongst some of the most highly renowned and highest quality knives available. The craftsmanship and level of detail that goes into Japanese knife are almost unrivaled. Their manufacturing focuses on appealing to all of the human senses rather than just making something that can simply cut food. Cut food. When looking into Japanese knives, you might feel overwhelmed at first. Yes, I was when I visited the knife stores in Kappabashi, Tokyo. I was overwhelmed because there are more than, I don't know, like 2,000 knives at each store, and it looked like a museum to me, knife museum. When looking into Japanese knives, you might feel overwhelmed at first. The types of and functions seem to be never ending, and it can often be difficult knowing where to start. Popular Japanese knives can be more easily categorized by single and double bevel blades, with certain popular types being more common in each category. Some of the most popular Japanese knives are Santoku, Kyoto, Nakiri, Usuba, Deba, and Yanagiba. While there are many types of Japanese knives, there are a select few, though few certainly means more than one or two in this instance. It's category that the best Japanese chefs will have as an absolute staple in their kitchen collection. An absolute staple in their kitchen collection. Or simply have as an absolute staple in their kitchen, but it's much better in their knife collection. In this article, we are going to cover some of the most popular Japanese knives that are not only used by Japanese chefs, but also chefs worldwide, as Japanese knives continue to rise in popularity in the Western world. Table of contents: single or double bevel. 2. Types of Japanese knives. 3. Single bevel. 4. Yunakisaki. Sounds like a expletive to me. Yunakisaki, or some kind of pun or tongue twist. 5. Sushikiri. I don't know, sounds like a friend's name. 6. Kamakata Usuba. I don't know, sounds like a Armenian name. Mukimono. Sounds like a cartoon character's name. Kurimuki. Sounds like a stupid name. Kurumuki. 9. Chukabocho. Okay, sounds like what's the country name? Chilean name. Machu Picchu. Chukabocho. Yanagiba. Sounds like ice cream popsicle. Usuba. Sounds like the Egyptian name. Deba. I don't know. It just sounds like a gourd. Kiritsuke. Takohiki. Honesuki. Honkotsu. Double bevel. Santoku. Yep. Kyoto. Sounds like a Kyoto to me. The city north of Osaka, Kyoto. Nakiri. Kaisaki pairing, petty knife. Pankiri, Sujihiki are the key features. Overview of each knife and its characteristics. FAQ and final thoughts. Single bevel or double bevel. Before getting into the different types of Japanese knives and the Japanese knife names, it's important to point out one of the key differences between a Japanese knife and those made in the Western world, like a French or German knives, and that and that is the bevel and blade edge. Blade edge and bevel. What is bevel, man? The bevel is a taper on the knife blade that forms the edge and is what gives a knife its degree of sharpness. Okay, that's a definition. The bevel is a taper on the knife blade that forms the edge and is what gives a knife its degree of sharpness. Bevel. Traditional Japanese knives will have a single bevel, which means that one side of the knife is flat, while the other will have a slight taper to form the edge. Single bevel, which means that one side of the knife is flat, while the other will have a slight taper to form the edge. Interesting. So the edge of the knife where it cuts into food or stuff or paper, the cutting edge. One side could be flat, then that's a single bevel, and the other side is tapering, slight tapering to the edge. Okay, I think a double bevel is both sides of the edge taper to the center. The reason this is common with Japanese knives is so that you can form and hone a sharp edge, typically 10 to 15 degrees, which is incredibly sharp. So degrees is 10 to 15 degrees. With a single bevel, it is very easy to sharp and hone a sharp edge, like form and hone a sharp edge, typically 10 to 15 degrees, which is incredibly sharp. The flat side of the knife also helps to maintain the food's cell structure and ultimately retain the intended flavor of the item. A single bevel can also be more precise, which comes in handy with a Damascus boning knife, for example. A double bevel edge is more popular in Western culture, and a number of Japanese knives have taken on this feature as they grow in popularity. A double bevel means that the knife is tapered on both sides to form an edge, with typical Western knives forming a V-shaped edge. Right, exactly. V-shaped edge, forming a V-shaped edge. That's a double bevel, man. Types of Japanese knives. In Japanese cuisine, there is a strong focus on food preparation, precise cuts, and overall presentation of the dish, meaning that most Japanese chefs will have between 3 and 6 knives that they will utilize depending on the dish they are making. A sushi or sashimi chef, for example, could easily have 4 specific knives that they use daily to handle the different cutting requirements for their dish. To elaborate, one knife would be used to fillet and cut a large fish, particularly through bone and cartilage. Particularly through bone and cartilage. A second knife is then used to slice the fish, and another knife is then used to prepare the vegetables. The level of precision with Japanese knives is always the key priority, as the chefs aim to utilize extremely sharp knives in order to not only get precise cuts, but also to retain the food's flavor by cutting through the food cells as cleanly as possible. Damn. Very precise, man. Let me read this paragraph one more time. The level of precision with Japanese knives is always the key priority, as the chefs aim to utilize extremely sharp knives in order to not only get precise cuts, but also to retain the food's flavor. That's good strategy, man. To retain food's flavor by cutting through the food cells as cleanly as possible. I didn't know. They want to retain the food's flavor by cutting through the food cells as cleanly as possible. With all this being said, we are now going to get into some of the different types of Japanese knife styles and different Japanese knife shapes, and why they are used by some of the best Japanese chefs. Okay, slice. They want to retain the food's flavor. Some knives can cut through the bone and cartilage. A top priority, precision, the level of precision. Single bevel knives. The following single bevel knives are the most popular, and 3 specific knives are typically used to make up a collection for sushi or sashimi, arguably Japan's most popular dishes. These 3 knives are often considered to be essential for Japanese cuisine. Unagisaki. The unagisaki knife is a type of Japanese kitchen knife that is specifically designed for filleting eel. It is characterized by its long, thin blade, which is well suited for slicing through the bones and the skin of eel. The word unagisaki is made up of 2 Japanese characters, unagi, which means eel, and saki, which means head. Together, the word unagisaki refers to the head of an eel. Unagisaki, head of the eel, unagisaki, slicing through the bones and skin of eel. I will stop here and fillet. I thought fillet T is silent. Let's find that out. What do you say?
Fillet.
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 Fillet. Fillet.
Fillet. Fillet. Fillet.
Fillet. What the?
Fillet.
Fillet. Fillet.
Fillet. Fillet.
Fillet.
Fillet.
Fillet. Fillet. Yeah, thin molding used to separate large moldings. Loop fibers, narrow line on the book cover, concave filling where 2 planes meet. Loins of a horse. Slice of boneless meat or fish, especially beef. Fillet. Cut and prepare into fillets. Fillets. Remove the bones from fish or meat. Fillet may refer to annulate. So, since we are reading an article by a British guy, we should pronounce it filleting, right? Sushi kiri. The sushi kiri knife is a type of Japanese kitchen knife that is specifically designed for cutting sashimi, which is raw fish that is sliced into thin slices and served as a delicacy in Japan. The word sushi kiri is made up of 2 Japanese characters, sushi, which refers to the dish of raw fish and rice, and kiri, which means to cut. Sushikiri. A sushikiri knife is characterized by its long thin blade, which is designed to easily slice through the delicate flesh of raw fish. It is typically made with a curved single bevel, meaning that only one side of the blade is sharpened, which allows for a more precise cut. Sushikiri knives are commonly used by professional chefs in Japan, but are not as well known outside of Japan. Okay. Kamagata Usuba. The word Kamagata Usuba refers to a type of Japanese kitchen knife that is used for cutting vegetables. Kamagata refers to the pointed tip and slightly curved blade of the knife, which is a characteristic feature of this type of Usuba knife. Usuba means thin blade and refers to the thin, sharp blade of the knife, which is well suited for precise cutting tasks, such as creating thin slices or intricate garnishes. Kamagata Usuba knives are typically made with a single bevel, meaning that only one side of the blade is sharpened. The Kamagata Usuba knife is traditionally used in the Kanto region of Japan, which includes the city of Tokyo. It is a specialized tool that is used for a specific type of cutting task and is not as versatile as other types of kitchen knives. It is known for its precision and ability to create thin, precise cuts in vegetables. Mukimono. It is a small blade with a single bevel with a tapered blade and is used for mukimono and kazarigiri, which is a Japanese culinary technique that involves creating decorative cuts or shapes in fruits and vegetables. It is similar to fruit carving and can be used to create intricate garnishes or decorations for dishes. The word mukimono is made up of two Japanese characters, muki, which means to peel, and mono, which means thin. This refers to the fact that the decorative cuts or shapes are created by peeling the skin or outer layer of the fruit or vegetable. Kurimuki. Kurimuki is a Japanese kitchen knife that is specifically designed for peeling vegetables and fruits. The word kurimuki is made up of two Japanese characters, kuri, which means chestnut, palm, and muki, which means to peel. Kurimuki. The name of the knife is derived from the way that it is used to peel chestnuts, which requires a thin, sharp blade to easily remove the rough, tough outer shell. A kurimuki knife is characterized by its thin, sharp blade, which is typically made with a single bevel, meaning that only one side of the blade is sharpened. This design allows for precise controlled cuts, which are necessary for tasks such as peeling thin-skinned fruits and vegetables. Chukabocho. A chukabocho is a type of Japanese kitchen knife that is similar to a cleaver. It is a large knife with a rectangular blade, which is typically used for tasks such as chopping, dicing, and mincing vegetables and meats. The word chukabocho is made up of two Japanese characters, chukabocho, which means middle-sized kitchen knife, and hocho, which means knife. The blade of a chukabocho is typically thicker and heavier than that of a cleaver and is made with a single bevel, meaning that only one side of the blade is sharpened. This design allows for a more precise cut and also allows the blade to easily glide through denser ingredients such as bone or root vegetables. Chukabocho knives are a common choice for professional chefs in Japan and are also used by home cooks for a variety of tasks in the kitchen. Yanagiba or yanagi. Sounds like an ordinary knife. The Yanagiba knife, yanagi meaning willow blade, is one of the most traditional knives for Japanese cuisine and is mostly commonly used for sushi and sashimi based dishes. This knife typically has a long and thin blade, with an angled tip to finely sliced blocks or raw fish. A typical Yanagiba knife will have a blade length of 10 to 12 inches. Usubabocho. Usuba meaning thin blade might look like a large meat cleaver. However, these knives are typically used to produce cuts for fruit and vegetables. But how to use a usuba knife? The thin blade is well suited to making thin and clean cuts, and you will find they are often used to provide the decorative finish to Japanese dishes. Usuba blades are often 7 inches to 10 inches in length, and the fine edge is often difficult for beginners to sharpen, which is why these knives are used more by a professional Japanese chef. Deba bocho. A deba knife is the final knife of the three general knives and is the thickest of the three, used primarily for cutting and filleting a fish. The thick spine of this knife and slightly heavier weight allow for cutting through bone and cartilage through the fine edge means this knife is much more fragile than a Western butcher's knife. The deba can come in 3 common sizes: kodeba, hondeba, and myokishi deba, with various sizes from 3 inches to 10 inches depending on the type of fish and cut being done. Well, I feel tired. Kiritsuke, I'll just stop here and come back later. Kiritsuke. The kiritsuke is a versatile knife that is typically used to perform a variety of cutting functions that are usually performed by a Yanagiba and Usuba knife, making this a specialty purpose knife for cutting vegetables and slicing raw fish. Due to the blade profile having a flat heel, yet a long blade length 10 to 12 inch on average, this knife is utilized for long drawing cuts that can be very difficult to control. This specialty knife is therefore usually only handled by the head chef, and its use is seen as a symbol of skill and reputation for Japanese chefs. The kiritsuke can also come with a double bevel edge and is better known as a kiritsuke gyoto, which refers to the versatility of kiritsuke whilst being adapted for Western users. Tokohiki. The tokohiki knife is a fish slicing knife similar to the yanagiba that is commonly used in eastern regions of Japan. The word hiki can be translated to pull and is a reflection of the cutting technique used with this knife. This knife can be distinguished from the popular yanagiba by its square-tipped end that is well suited to scooping food, mainly sashimi, from the chopping board and arranging it for presentation on the serving plate. The squared tip is only real distinguishing feature, and otherwise the blade length of 10 inches and 12 inches and single bevel design is the same as one you would find with a standard yanagiba knife. Honesuki. The honesuki is a traditional Japanese boning knife that features a straight edge and pointed tip for precise deboning and filleting work with meat, mainly poultry and more recently fish. Honesuki versus boning knife. The thick heel of this knife is used for scraping meat from bones, while the sharp and pointed tip is easy to maneuver and is suited to filleting, piercing skin, and cutting cartilage and ligaments around joints. This knife is specifically for deboning or filleting work and should not be used for carving large meat or cutting through bones, as the blade profile is not dense enough for this kind of heavy-duty cutting. Hankotsu. Hankotsu knife is a specifically designed boning knife used primarily for butchering hanging carcasses. The blade design therefore reflects this cutting purpose and is designed to cut in a downward motion with a reversed knife grip. The edge is typically designed to be asymmetrical ground, with the heel being blunter as a safety feature to accommodate a reverse grip cutting technique alongside being protective of slips when cutting in a downward direction. The rest of the edge is sharper and leads to a pointed tip, which, like the honesuki, is used for filleting and deboning meat, poultry, and fish. Double-beveled knives, Santoku. The Santoku meaning three virtues. Oh, Santoku, 삼덕, 삼덕. In Chinese, 산德. The Santoku meaning three virtues or three purposes is a general purpose knife that is closely related to a Western chef's knife. It's well suited to mincing, dicing, slicing, and chopping meat, fish, and vegetables, which is why it derives its name. Chopping meat, fish, and vegetables. Santoku knives have become the most common knives in Japanese kitchens due to their multi-purpose uses and are used in place of an usuba and deba. So you need to buy Santoku, man. Gyoto. The Gyoto knife, similar to the Santoku, is an all-purpose Japanese chef's knife, all-purpose. There's a hyphen, all-purpose. With a larger, longer 8 inches or 12 inches curved blade that can be used in a rocking chopping motion and is well suited to cutting meat as well as fish and vegetables. Due to the longer blade, Kyoto knives are popular for those that cook for a large number of customers. Nakiri. The nakiri is a double-beveled version of the usuba knife and is used for chopping, peeling, and slicing vegetables. The blade has a thin profile with a rounded or flat tip to cater to more push-style chopping. But nakiri versus usuba, the key reason for preferring the nakiri would be that it is easier to sharpen than the single bevel usuba. Kaisaki paring and petty knife. The word kaisaki is usually actually a term that refers to a specific cutting technique that is used with this type of knife rather than the knife itself. Kaisaki. Kaisaki involves making thin, precise cuts through the bones of fish in order to create sashimi, which is a raw fish that is sliced into thin slices and served as a delicacy in Japan. This technique is often used with bluefin tuna, which has particularly large and sturdy bones. The Kanto style kaisaki knife is characterized by its long, thin blade, which is designed to easily navigate through the bones of the fish. It is worth noting that there are different styles of kaisaki knives, and they are not all used exclusively for cutting fish. Some variations of the kaisaki knife may be used for other types of cutting tasks as well. They are also used. They are also used. What is? I think there's a typo. You gotta be omitted. Liu in Chinese, 생략 in Korean. They are also used for peeling and slicing vegetables. These knives are similar to chef's knife and are used for a variety of smaller, more intricate cutting tasks. My fan died. The timer cut the juice. Pankiri, so it's quiet. Pankiri. A pankiri knife is a Japanese equivalent of Western bread knife. The pankiri, unlike some Japanese knives, does not differ too much from the Western equivalent, with its serrated edge and 7 inches to 10 inches blade length being most common. The only noticeable difference is that pankiri can often also be used for roughly cutting braised meats alongside its primary use as a bread knife. Braised meats, like steamed meats, right? Braised. Let's find that out, man. I encountered this word a lot. Yeah, images, picture says, yeah, braised, like pickled and boiled, braised meat. Yeah. Braised meat. That's braised. Sujihiki. The sujihiki knife is a long, thin knife that is mainly used for slicing and trimming meat. It's well suited to trimming, filleting, and slicing meat, and can also be used with equal precision and functionality on fish. The word sujihiki is made up of two Japanese characters, suji, which means muscle fibers, and hiki, which means to pull. This refers to the long, smooth cuts that can be made with a sujihiki knife. Sujihiki knives are also commonly used for slicing sashimi, which is raw fish that is cut into thin slices and served as a delicacy in Japan. The long, thin blade of sujihiki knife allows for precise cuts through the delicate flesh of the fish and is particularly useful for slicing larger fish such as tuna and salmon. Many people draw comparisons between this knife and yanagiba, which has resulted in this being considered the Western equivalent of yanagiba as a result of the similarities of use but utilizing Western style double bevel edge. Other key features. While there are many types of Japanese knives, there are certain features that help to distinguish them from other Western style knives. The first, as mentioned earlier, is that traditional Japanese knives will have a single bevel to produce an incredibly sharp edge for precision focused cuts. What you will also find is that many are made from a very high carbon steel material known as blue or white steel. This allows the knife's blade to be lighter, thinner, and hold a much sharper edge. This does, however, mean that Japanese knives need to be maintained much more, as the blade can be prone to the rust and corrosion if not properly maintained, and the edges also need frequent honing and sharpening. Finally, Japanese knives will typically have a wooden handle that is used to encompass the blade's tang and give an even balance and weight distribution to the knife. These handles are often made from whole wood and are referred to as Y handles. Y handles. Overview of each knife and its characteristics. Here is the table with a condensed description of each knife. Knife name, description, uses. Unagisaki, rounded tip, single bevel, eel, filleting. Sushikiri, square tip, single bevel, sushi preparation. Kamagata usuba, triangular blade, single bevel, and so on. Final thoughts. Just looking at the above list, it's easy to see that there's a wide range of popular Japanese knives, and if we are being honest, we could have added another 5 to 10 Japanese knives to this list, which can be commonly used by Japanese chefs. As the popularity of Japanese knives grows, however, those that are listed above are certainly at the forefront of most of the best chefs' collections and can also be found in many homes and kitchens, not only in Japan but in ever increasing numbers in the Western world. So here's FAQ. What are traditional Japanese knives? Traditional Japanese knives are knives that are made in the traditional Japanese style. These knives are known for their sharpness and precision and are often used in Japanese cuisine for tasks such as slicing fish and vegetables. Traditional Japanese knives are typically made from high quality carbon steel, which is hardened and sharpened using a specialized process. The blades of these knives are usually single edged and have a distinctive curved shape. Some common types of traditional Japanese knives include the Santoku knife, the nakiri knife, and deba knife. How are traditional Japanese knives made? Traditional Japanese knives are typically made using a combination of modern techniques and traditional hand forging methods. The process of making a traditional Japanese knife typically begins with a selection of high quality carbon steel, which is tested and pounded into shape by a blacksmith. The blade is then hardened using a process called quenching, right? Quenching, same thing, quenching. You put a hot iron into water or oil, in which the steel is rapidly cooled in oil or water. Once the blade has been hardened, it is sharpened using a series of grinding and honing techniques and may be finished with a protective coating or etching. The handle of the knife is typically made from wood, bone, or other materials and is attached to the blade using a traditional Japanese binding method. Overall, the process of making a traditional Japanese knife is highly skilled and time consuming and often involves multiple craftsmen working together to create a single knife. Craftsman, what should my first Japanese knife be? Santoku man. If you are new to Japanese knives, it is a good idea to start with a Santoku knife. Yeah. This type of knife is similar to a Western chef's knife and is versatile enough to be used for a wide range of tasks, including slicing, dicing, and mincing. The Santoku knife is a relatively short and wide blade, which makes it easy to control and maneuver. It is also generally lightweight and well balanced, which makes it comfortable to use for extended periods of time. As you become more familiar with Japanese knives and develop your skills, you may want to try other types of knives, such as a nakiri knife for vegetables and deba knife for fish. Well, that's it. I feel really tired, man.